No one saw it coming. The Orlando Magic just made a move that could flip the Eastern Conference upside down, trading for Desmond Bane, one of the most lethal young scorers in the league. But what's even crazier, the Memphis Grizzlies gave him up for a veteran role player. Why would a team sacrifice their future like that? What's going on behind the scenes? This isn't just a trade, it's a signal. And the full story is way deeper than it looks. It wasn't supposed to happen, at least not now. Desmond Bane wasn't on any trade block. There were no rumblings, no whispers. Then suddenly, the alert dropped. Desmond Bane traded to the Orlando Magic in a deal involving Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and future picks. Instantly, social media lit up. Fans were confused. Analysts were caught off guard. Why would the Memphis Grizzlies part with one of their most productive young stars? Why would Orlando take such a big swing now? This wasn't a minor shuffle. This was a calculated jolt to the NBA system. Bane was averaging nearly 24 points per game, shooting lights out from deep, and had become a key figure in Memphis's core next to Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. He wasn't just another good player, he was their guy. And now, he's gone. On the other side, Orlando, who had built slowly through the draft and internal development, suddenly flipped from patient to aggressive. Getting Bane meant giving up a steady veteran in KCP, along with draft capital. It was a risk. But maybe, just maybe, it's the risk that launches them into contention. And here's the kicker. The Grizzlies weren't forced into this. This wasn't a desperation move, which means the question has to be asked. What do they know that we don't? At first glance, it made no sense. Desmond Bane was thriving in Memphis, homegrown talent, beloved by the fan base, and one of the few consistent bright spots in a season plagued by chaos. So why give him up now? Behind the scenes, the answer might be more strategic than emotional. The Grizzlies aren't just reacting, they're recalibrating. With Ja Morant's status uncertain after a suspension-filled year and repeated off-court controversies, Memphis is quietly reshaping its identity. They've been contenders in theory, but reality has told a messier story. Injuries, locker room tension, and underwhelming playoff results. And Bane, as good as he is, he may have been the highest value chip they were willing to part with. Enter Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. No, he's not putting up 24 points per night, but he's a proven champion, a high IQ player, the kind of veteran presence that can steady a young locker room. He brings spacing, leadership, and defensive grit. And most importantly, he's movable. His contract is manageable. He doesn't anchor the team financially, giving Memphis flexibility, something they're going to need if they plan to rebuild without making it obvious. The picks included in the deal? That's future currency. Memphis may not be chasing a ring next year, but make no mistake, this trade might be a setup for something much bigger down the road. And while fans are still processing the shock, the Magic are moving fast. For years, the Orlando Magic were just there. Not bad enough to tank completely, not good enough to matter. Quiet, patient, building. But this move, this wasn't quiet. This wasn't patient. This was a swing for the fences. By trading for Desmond Bane, Orlando just sent a message to the entire Eastern Conference. We're done waiting. Think about it. They've already got Paolo Banchero, an all-star in the making. Franz Wagner, one of the best two-way wings under 25. Their defense is elite. Their youth, impressive. But what they didn't have was firepower. Someone who could create his own shot, stretch the floor, and take over in the clutch. That's what Bane brings immediately. He's not just a shooter, he's a problem. Defenders can't leave him alone on the perimeter. He spaces the floor for Paolo to drive. He punishes teams that collapse on the paint. And with his playoff experience, he gives Orlando something they've desperately needed, a closer. This wasn't just about talent. It was about fit. Bane slides into the starting lineup without disrupting chemistry. He fills a gap that's held them back for years. And the Magic front office? They know exactly what they're doing. This trade is a signal. Orlando believes their time is now, not in 2 years, not when their prospects mature, now. And with one bold move, they've gone from a fun young team to a potential Eastern Conference nightmare. But not everyone is convinced. Some believe they gave up too much, and for Memphis, that belief might be part of the plan. On paper, this trade feels uneven. Desmond Bane is a rising star, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a role player. But look closer, and you'll see why Memphis made this move with eyes wide open. KCP is a two-time champion. He's been there. He's won with the Lakers. He's won with the Nuggets. And in both situations, he wasn't just along for the ride. He played a critical role. He's the kind of player every contending team wants. No ego, elite defense, and a reliable knockdown shooter. He doesn't need 20 shots a night. He just gets the job done. That's exactly the kind of presence Memphis needs right now. The Grizzlies have talent. What they've lacked, especially in the post-grit and grind era, is stability, leadership, a calming voice in chaotic moments. And while Ja Morant has the star power, And Jaren Jackson Jr. has the all-defense resume. Neither has shown they can lead a locker room through adversity. KCP can. His 3-and-D style also fits perfectly with Memphis's defensive identity. He won't replace Bane's offensive production, but he doesn't have to. What he brings is balance, flexibility, and maybe most importantly, professionalism, the kind that can anchor a young roster going through change. Some fans will see this as a downgrade, but smart front offices don't just chase flash, they build culture. And in that category, KCP is elite. But Memphis didn't just gain leadership, they gave up a heartbeat, and that may have a price. Numbers tell part of the story, but in this case, the emotional fallout may be just as important as the box score. Desmond Bane wasn't just a scorer, he was a pillar of Memphis culture. Drafted late, developed in-house, and battle-tested in the playoffs, he represented everything the Grizzlies wanted to be: tough, fearless, and overlooked. He wasn't flashy, but he was vocal, confident, respected. Inside that locker room, Bane was more than a shooter. He was a leader. Losing a guy like that, it hits differently. It sends a message to the rest of the team. No one's untouchable. And while Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is as steady as they come, he's new. He hasn't bled for Memphis. He hasn't grown with the core. He's a plug-and-play vet who's won elsewhere. But will that translate here? Leadership doesn't transfer automatically. Chemistry doesn't form overnight. And replacing a voice like Bane's with a quieter, more reserved veteran? It's a gamble. Even a professional locker room can fracture under sudden change, especially when it involves a fan favorite. For Orlando, the impact could be the opposite. They've just added a fiery competitor with playoff scars, someone who'll push the young core and raise expectations internally. Bane brings urgency and swagger, the kind that says, "We're not here to participate, we're here to win." So while the stats will be analyzed for weeks, the real story may unfold behind closed doors. Because in the NBA, vibes matter. And this trade just rewired both teams at their core. Every trade shifts the pieces on the board. But this one, it changed the game plan entirely for both franchises. For Orlando, this is their clearest move yet that the rebuild phase is over. They're not hoarding picks anymore. They're not developing young talent for 5 years down the line. With Desmond Bane in the mix, they've officially entered win-now territory. And it makes sense, they've quietly built one of the most complete young rosters in the league. Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, and now Bane? That's a core with serious teeth. Add in a coach who's earned respect and a defense that ranked top 5 last season, and suddenly, the Magic aren't cute anymore. They're dangerous. This isn't just about adding scoring, it's about raising expectations. Playoffs aren't enough. The second round isn't enough. With this trade, Orlando is signaling that it wants respect, and they're ready to earn it. Meanwhile, Memphis is doing something much subtler, but just as important. They're rebalancing. Not tanking, not blowing it up, just repositioning. Think about it. Ja Morant is still a question mark. Jaren Jackson Jr. is elite on defense, but inconsistent on offense. They're not in panic mode, but they know their timeline is shifted. Bringing in KCP gives them short-term leadership without long-term commitment. Adding picks gives them options, whether for drafting, flipping, or stashing. They're not chasing the 8 seed, they're waiting for the right moment to strike again. So while fans may argue about who won this trade, the truth is both teams may have just taken a huge step in opposite directions. To understand the why behind this deal, you have to go beyond the headlines. Because when you dig into the numbers, things start to click. Start with Desmond Bane. Last season, he averaged 23.7 points per game, shooting an impressive 41% from beyond the arc, despite being the focus of opposing defenses night after night. But it's not just the raw numbers, it's the gravity. Defenders chase him all over the floor, stretching defensive schemes and opening up driving lanes for teammates. He's not just a shooter, he bends the court. Compare that to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. His stats won't wow you, just under 11 points per game with a solid 39% from 3. But he plays his role to perfection. Low usage, few mistakes, lockdown defense on the perimeter. He's the kind of guy who makes stars better by doing the dirty work, fighting through screens, hitting the corner 3, rotating on time. Coaches love that. But the deeper story is this. Bane's advanced metrics put him in elite territory. His true shooting percentage, offensive box plus-minus, and efficiency in isolation all point to a player who's already operating at all-star level and still climbing. Meanwhile, KCP ranks high in defensive win shares and off-ball movement, giving Memphis exactly the kind of system-friendly piece they need in a more structured defense-first approach. The trade-off. Memphis sacrifices raw output for chemistry and structure. Orlando sacrifices flexibility for firepower. It's not just about what each player brings, it's about what each team needs. And the analytics quietly show this might have been the perfect puzzle piece swap. But numbers don't win championships, moments do. And this trade could set up some big ones. This trade didn't just shake up two rosters, it might have cracked open the floodgates. Because whenever a team like Orlando makes a bold move, other teams start watching and reacting. Quietly, front offices across the league are asking themselves, did we underestimate the Magic? And more urgently, do we need to make a move before they pass us? The Eastern Conference arms race just got real. The Heat, 76ers, Knicks, even the Celtics all have to reassess. If Orlando surges into the top tier, someone's getting bumped. And with one aggressive trade, the Magic may have just forced the hands of multiple rivals. Don't be surprised if we see a flurry of unexpected deals in the coming weeks, especially from playoff hopefuls clinging to relevance. But over in Memphis, the questions are even bigger. This move feels like the first domino, not the last. Is Jaren Jackson Jr. next? Could Memphis move on from their defensive anchor if the right offer comes along? And what about Ja Morant? Are the Grizzlies quietly bracing for a future without him? No one's saying it out loud yet, but the pieces are shifting. And once the cracks start forming, they don't usually stop. For now, this is just one trade. But in hindsight, it might be remembered as the spark that ignited a full-blown reshuffle of power in both conferences. And depending on what happens next, this might not be the biggest surprise we see this summer. Sometimes, the biggest moves aren't the loudest. No press conference, no Big Three reunion. Just a quiet, calculated trade that sends ripples through the league, and by the time everyone realizes what happened, it's already too late. That's what this Desmond Bane KCP swap feels like. For Orlando, it's a clear evolution from rebuilding to reigning. They're not just collecting talent anymore, they're assembling a squad that can make real noise now. And if Bane finds his rhythm alongside Banchero and Wagner, the Magic might become the East's next real problem. For Memphis, it's a different kind of power move, one built on patience, flexibility, and long-term thinking. They gave up a fan favorite, but gained a clearer path, and in the NBA, sometimes the smartest play is the one nobody applauds yet. This trade didn't just change rosters, it changed momentum. It redrew timelines. And depending on what happens next, it might be the moment we all look back on and say, that's when everything started to shift.